Story 1. The Girl in the Blizzard. Mike Hawkins had spent 29 winters driving flatbeds across America. But nothing ever felt as hostile as the I-90 on 11th December 2019. The storm had come in sideways, a white curtain of knives slashing across the highway, visibility dropping to the length of a pickup truck. Wind howled through the seams of his Peterbilt like something alive and grieving. The temperature gauge blinked 30 degrees C, and even the heater struggled to keep up. He was 52, broad-shouldered, slow-speaking, a man carved from long roads and longer silences. Most nights, the drone of diesel soothed him. But tonight, the storm felt wrong, too violent, too sudden, like it was hiding something. He kept both hands on the wheel, knuckles pale beneath the cabin's dim dashboard glow. Just get to Rapid, he muttered to himself. Get to the truck stop, warm coffee, and wait this damn thing out. Miles rolled under him, vague silhouettes swallowed by whiteout conditions. The highway felt abandoned, no tail lights, no headlights, not even the distant hum of another engine. As though he was the last man still moving through a frozen world. That's when he saw her. A shape, small, dark, hunched, standing in the middle of the lane. Mike slammed the brakes, the trailer fishtailing dangerously in the snow, abs thumping beneath his boots. The truck groaned to a shuddering stop barely 15 feet from the figure. For a moment, the storm swallowed her whole. Then she stepped forward, illuminated by the high beams. A girl, maybe 16, wearing only a thin grey hoodie and ripped jeans. Her hair plastered to her cheeks with ice. Blood smeared across her temple, dripping to her jawline and already freezing solid. Her eyes, wide, terrified, unfocused. She staggered to the driver's side and banged on the door with frantic, broken fists. Help! Please, please, open the door. He has a knife. Her voice cracked with panic, barely audible over the wind. Mike's pulse jumped. He reached toward the lock instinctively, then froze. Something moved. A vibration. A scrape. A dull, crawling thump that didn't come from her. It came from beneath the truck. At first he thought it was ice dropping. Then he realized the sound had rhythm. Deliberate. Slow. Thump, drag, thump, drag. Like something heavy was crawling under the flatbed. The girl slammed her palms again, leaving smears of frozen blood on the glass. He's coming. Please. Mike unlocked the door. The latch clicked loudly. Before he could swing it open, a metallic clink sounded through the floor. The truck shook. Just a tremor, but enough for the coffee in his cup holder to ripple. Mike's breath hitched. He leaned his head sideways, glancing at the undercarriage camera monitor mounted to the dash. A relic from hauling sensitive loads years back. Normally it showed a static, shadowy view of the axles. But now, the image trembled, then shifted. Then, a face slid into view. No, not a face. A mask. Hockey mask, old, cracked, dusted with frost. Under it, two eyes gleamed like whetstones. The figure was enormous. Long arms, shoulders scraping the suspension as he crawled. And in his right hand, clutched tightly, was a fire axe, its blade chipped and darkened. The masked man tilted his head up toward the camera. Then he smiled. Not wide. Not manic. Worse, playful. Mike's heart slammed against his ribs. The girl screamed again. Let me in. Mike snatched the switch for the undercarriage floodlight and flipped it. The screen blinked. White glare washed over everything. The masked man looked directly into the lens, grinning full enough to show yellow teeth behind the mask's mouth slits. And then, he vanished. One frame he was there. The next frame, gone. The camera shook violently, then went still. Mike's training, instincts, and decades of bad weather survival kicked in. He threw open the door, grabbed the girl's wrist, and yanked her inside. Get in, now. She scrambled across the passenger seat, curling into herself. Mike slammed the door and threw the locks. What the hell is going on? he shouted. Her teeth chattered hard enough to crack enamel. I was walking with my brother. Car broke down. We saw someone big. He came out of the ditch. He chased us. My brother told me to run. Her voice broke. He didn't follow me. I don't know where. A metallic thud hit the rear of the truck. Both of them jerked their heads back. Another thud. Harder. Something was climbing the trailer. Mike grabbed the gear shift. Hold tight. He floored the accelerator. The Peterbilt roared, tires spinning before catching traction. Snow blasted behind them as they surged forward. The girl screamed as the truck fishtailed. Mike straightened it, breath ragged. He checked the mirror. A shadow, tall, hunched, clung to the back ladder of the flatbed, barely visible through the storm. Its arms were too long. Its silhouette didn't look right. The axe gleamed whenever the lightning-like flares of headlights reflected off snow. Jesus Christ, Mike whispered. The figure began pulling itself forward, hand over hand, along the side rail of the trailer. Mike jerked the wheel left, then right, trying to throw it off. The figure held on. He pressed harder on the accelerator. The engine strained. The girl sobbed quietly, covering her mouth. Mike yelled over the storm. What did he look like? Did he say anything? Did he chase other cars? What the hell does he? He didn't talk. She whispered. He just laughed. The wine swallowed her words, but Mike felt them in his bones. Something slammed the passenger side of the truck. Not a tap. A full force hit. The window cracked. He's right there, the girl cried, pointing to the shattered glass. A pale hand, gloved in torn leather, slid across the window like a spider, tapping lightly. As if teasing, testing. Mike hit the wipers. Useless, they only cleared ice, not terror. He spotted a highway exit sign half buried in snow. Rapid City, 3 miles. 3 miles might as well be 3 hours. A huge metallic clang rang out as something struck the fuel tanks. Hold on. Mike snarled. He jerked the wheel hard left. The trailer swung sideways like a battering ram. A dark shape tumbled off into the snow. Mike didn't waste a second. He floored the gas, pushing the truck to its limits. The engine screamed, turbo whining under the strain. The highway blurred in streaks of white. They drove like that, barely breathing, until the yellow halo of Rapid City streetlights finally pierced the storm. Mike pulled into the truck stop lot and skidded to a stop under the bright canopy. They sat in silence. Neither moved. Neither spoke. Finally, Mike exhaled, long and shaking. You're safe, he said. You're safe now. We'll call the sheriff. They'll send people out to find your brother. But when he turned to her, she wasn't breathing normally. She wasn't crying. She wasn't even trembling. She was staring out the windshield. Did he follow us? She whispered. Mike swallowed hard. I don't think so. She raised a shaking hand and pointed. At the snow. 50 meters ahead of the truck. A pair of children's shoes, small, black, soaked in blood, sat neatly in the snow, placed side by side, as though someone had set them there gently. And around them? No footprints. None. Not leading toward. Not leading away. Just placed. The wind howled across the lot, dragging ice crystals across the pavement like tiny shards of glass. Mike stepped out of the cabin slowly, every nerve screaming not to. He walked toward the shoes. The storm muffled everything. His boots on snow, the distant hum of highway traffic, even his own breathing. He knelt. The blood had frozen thick, crusted over the fabric. He looked back at the truck. The girl watched him, face pale. Mike scanned the horizon. Nothing but storm. No movement. No silhouette. No masked giant with an axe. But something in his gut twisted hard. The girl climbed down from the truck, hugging herself tightly. Those aren't mine, she said. I don't know whose they are. Mike nodded slowly. The shoes looked older than 16-year-old feet. Smaller. Much smaller. Then he noticed something half buried near the shoes. A single sheet of paper caught under ice. He brushed snow away. A missing persons flyer. A boy, age 8. Gone missing 6 months earlier. Last seen on I-90. The wind picked up suddenly, slamming into Mike's back. The storm howled louder, as if enraged. Behind them, the Peterbilt's undercarriage camera flickered on by itself, just for a heartbeat. And on the screen, distorted by static and snow, a shape crawled across the very edge of the frame. Tall, broad, grinning. Then the feed cut to black. The sheriff's department arrived at Sunrise. They searched the area. No footprints. No drag marks. No traces of a struggle. They logged the shoes as evidence. They questioned the girl, Emily, and assured her they would deploy search teams. But as the officer spoke, Mike noticed something no one else seemed to register. Emily never once asked if her brother was alive. She only asked if he was gone. Asterisk asterisk. 2 days later, long after the storm cleared, Mike returned to the spot where he'd first stopped the truck. Salt trucks had plowed the area. Fresh tire tracks crisscrossed the asphalt. But one thing remained untouched. A long, deep drag mark carved under the guardrail, leading down into the ditch. A drag mark far too wide, too heavy, to belong to a child. At the end of it, a single mark in the snow, as if something enormous had knelt there, pressed a hand into the ground, and pushed itself forward. Mike stared, throat tightening. He was a man who believed in what he could see, touch, and haul. Not ghosts, not demons, not monsters. But he'd seen a man, or something like one, crawl under his truck with an axe. He'd seen him smile at the camera. He knew what he felt. And what he felt was simple, primal, and undeniable. This wasn't over. Somewhere on the frozen stretches of I-90 something still hunted. Something patient. Something practiced. Something that moved through blizzards like a shark through dark water. He turned away from the ditch. The wind behind him carried a faint sound. Distant, warbling, almost human. A laugh. Story 2. The Weeping Woman on Highway 190. Sarah, Red, Callahan had been running solo freight across Texas for 14 years. And in all that time she'd never once let bad luck, bad men, or bad weather scare her off-road. She was built from heat and grit. A redhead, sharp-jawed woman who kept a boot knife strapped to her calf and a rosary hanging from her sleeper mirror. Not for religion, for reminders. Her daddy always said, the highway's full of two kinds of ghosts, the ones you hear about and the ones nobody lives to talk about. She had spent years pretending that phrase was just folklore. But on 3rd July 2021, crossing the lonely stretch of Highway 190 between Nacogdoches and Jasper, humidity choking the air like wet cloth and heat shimmering off the asphalt, she began to think her father had undersold the truth. The sun had just dipped behind the tree line when she saw the shape on the shoulder. At first she thought it was a deer, or maybe someone changing a flat. Then the figure lifted a trembling hand, waving weakly. A woman, thin, hunched, wearing a simple pale dress, sat on the dirt shoulder like her legs had collapsed beneath her. Her hair covered her face. She rocked slightly, shoulders shaking with sobs. Sarah slowed instinctively. Most truckers would have kept going. But Sarah was not most. She eased her Kenworth onto the gravel, hazard lights blinking orange in the humid dusk. The engine ticked as she cut it to idle, the roar fading into the thick East Texas silence. She grabbed her flashlight and stepped out, boots crunching the dry brush. "Ma'am," she called. "You all right?" No answer, only trembling and the faint, wet hiccups of crying. The heat hit like a fist, 102 degrees Fahrenheit with 95% humidity, air heavy enough to drink. Sweat beaded instantly on her skin. Sarah approached slowly. "Ma'am, you hurt? Need help?" The woman didn't lift her head. Something about her posture felt wrong, too stiff, too posed, like a marionette abandoned mid-performance. Sarah circled around to face her directly. The woman's shoulders stopped shaking. The crying sound cut abruptly, like a recording paused. A bad feeling crawled up Sarah's spine. She angled the flashlight toward the woman's face, and the breath left her lungs. The head wasn't real. It was a mannequin head, hair stitched on, plastic skin, glass eyes staring straight ahead. A cheap, department store mannequin. The wig sat crooked on its scalp. Before Sarah could even process the sight, a breeze swept through the roadside trees, hot, heavy, but strong enough to lift the wig. It peeled off the plastic head like peeling tape. The wig fluttered into the ditch, and the mannequin's glass eyes, milky, glossy, dead, now stared directly at Sarah. She stumbled back, pulse spiking. What the? A branch snapped violently behind her. Not from the woman. From the tree line. A massive shape lunged out, smashing through the brush, tall, at least 6'6", wearing a slick, black raincoat despite the blistering heat. Mud smeared across his face like war paint. His hair hung in twisted clumps. His jaw clenched with animal ferocity. And in his hands, a fire axe. Its blade stained with brown patches of dried blood. Several strands of hair clung to the dull edge. Sarah saw it all in a single, horrifying instant. She didn't think. She ran. The man thundered after her, boots pounding the dirt with frightening speed. He closed the distance like he knew the ground better than she did, 3 meters behind, maybe less. She sprinted for the Kenworth, lungs burning. He was gaining. Wind whipped his coat open. Something metallic clinked inside. Tools? Weapons? Trophies? The gap closed to 2 meters. 1.5. Sarah leapt up the truck side steps, grabbing the handle, hauling herself into the cab with a desperate grunt. Her fingers slapped the lock switch just as the man brought the axe down. Crash. The blade smashed into the passenger side window, spider webbing the glass. The impact shook the whole cab. Sarah screamed, scrambling backward. The axe lodged deep, the blade piercing through the laminate layer but not fully breaking through. The man snarled, jerked the axe to free it, but it held fast. He slammed his shoulder into the door. Again. Each hit rattled the frame. Sarah climbed into the driver's seat, twisted the key. The engine roared alive. She threw the truck into gear, slammed her foot on the accelerator. The Kenworth lurched forward, dragging the embedded axe with her. The man held onto the handle for a split second, running alongside the cab, then lost his grip, tumbling into the dust as Sarah tore down Highway 190, engine howling. Jesus, 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 she muttered, shaking uncontrollably, knuckles white on the wheel. She pushed the truck past 60, then 70. Dispatch, this is Red Callahan. I've got a situation. Someone just attacked my truck. Armed with. The radio screeched with static. The signal died. She glanced at the rear mirror. Nothing but darkness and trees whipping by. Her breath slowly calmed. But the axe was still buried in her passenger window. Vibrating from the engine's rumble, the steel handle quivering like a compass needle. Every mile she drove, it tapped lightly against the cracked glass, a metallic heartbeat. She drove 40 miles like that, when she saw the flashing blue and red lights of police cruisers blocking the road ahead. She nearly sobbed with relief. She pulled over, engine shaking, heart shaking wars. Officers approached cautiously, hands on holsters. "You Red Callahan?" one asked. She nodded, voice a rasp. "He attacked me. Big guy, face painted, had that axe. He almost." An officer circled to the passenger side. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "you dragged this all the way from 190 to here." The axe, still embedded, glinted under the floodlights. "Yes. Did you get a look at him?" "Enough," she said. "I'll never forget that face." They swept the woods nearby. Dogs, drones, flashlights cutting through the darkness. Nothing. No footprints matching her description. No drag marks. No sign of forced entry into the trees. Like the man had dissolved into the East Texas humidity. But Sarah had seen him. She knew he was real. Asterisk asterisk. The next morning, Texas DPS officers reviewed her dashcam footage. The attack was clear. Her sprint to the truck. The moment the axe struck, the frantic escape. But something else had been caught. At the very beginning, when Sarah first pulled over, before she opened her door, the dashcam captured the crying woman, the mannequin, and for 3 full seconds, before the wig blew away, the mannequin's head rotated toward the truck. Click, click, 2 tiny, unnatural movements, barely perceptible unless you slowed the footage. But the officers saw it, and they froze. No wind could make a mannequin do that, one muttered. The room fell silent. Asterisk asterisk. Sarah didn't sleep for 2 nights. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the man's mud-painted face, the way he came out of the trees with that heavy, dragging gait. The way he ran after her like he'd been waiting in the brush for her specifically. On the 3rd night, she locked herself in a motel room, triple-checked the deadbolt, and tried again to rest. Around 2:14 a.m., her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She frowned. Probably a scammer. Then it stopped. Then buzzed again. And again. And again. She stared at the screen. 9 missed calls. All from different numbers. Then, a text message appeared. You still have his axe. Her blood turned to ice. Another message. He wants it back. Sarah's hands shook violently as she set the phone down. Her motel room window faced the parking lot. Something moved outside. A tall shape, half in shadow. She pulled back the curtain an inch. And froze. A man stood beneath the street lamp. Black coat. Mud on his face. Eyes shining in the yellow light. Not running. Not charging. Just standing. Watching. The motel security camera caught his silhouette for 1 frame before he stepped backward. And vanished. Asterisk asterisk. By dawn, Sarah had checked out. Back on the road, hands trembling at the wheel. She drove straight to her dispatcher and demanded police escort until she could drop off the shipment and take a week off. Her dispatcher didn't argue. He'd seen the video. He'd seen the mannequin's head turn. He'd seen the axe lodged in her window like a signature. Texas Rangers took the axe as evidence. They dusted it for prints. None. They tested the dried, clotted hair on the blade. Not animal. Human. DNA not in any database. They tried to trace the phone numbers that had blown up her device the night of the motel. Every number was a spoof. Generated. Fake. Untraceable. The man from the woods? The one with the axe? No sightings. No matching descriptions. No reports. No identity. It was like East Texas had swallowed him whole. Asterisk asterisk. 2 weeks later, while driving through San Angelo, Sarah got a call from a state investigator. Miss Callan, we analyzed multiple frames of your dashcam footage. We noticed something strange. Her grip tightened on the wheel. What kind of strange? In the footage, right before the woman's wig flies off, there's a reflection in your driver's side mirror. A reflection of what? We can't be sure. The investigator hesitated. It looks like someone crouching behind your truck. In the brush. Watching. Sarah swallowed hard. Was it the same man? A long pause. It wasn't a man. We are not sure it was anyone. Static crackled through the line. Then the investigator added, we recommend you don't travel alone at night for a while. The call ended. Sarah's stomach dropped. Her father's words echoed. 2 kinds of ghosts, the ones you hear about, and the ones nobody lives to talk about. She rolled past a rest stop and glanced at the edge of the woods. For a moment, a brief, flickering moment, she saw a figure standing between the trees, staring at her truck. Mud-smeared face. Black coat. Waiting. She blinked. The figure was gone. No footprints. No movement. Just the long whisper of whine through the pines. Sarah took a breath through clenched teeth. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't a drifter. This wasn't hallucination. This was a hunt. And she had survived only because she ran faster than whatever had crawled out of that tree line. The weeping mannequin. The mud-faced hunter. The axe still vibrating inside her skull even though the weapon was gone. Highway 190 had always been lonely. But now it felt like something lived there. Something patient. Something clever. Something that set traps using mannequins, tools, and silence. And somewhere in the humidity-thick woods of East Texas, it was smiling. Story 3. Ghost Gate. The Stockton Industrial Zone. Daniel, preacher, Morales believed in 3 things: preparation, prayer, and paranoia. Not because he was religious, despite the nickname, but because hauling high-value medical cargo across California wasn't just logistics. It was hunting season. And truckers like him? They were the prey. For years, the Stockton industrial outskirts had been a rumor among drivers. A place where GPS signals glitched, where security guards didn't match the payroll, where trailers went in full and came out stripped, gutted, or never came out at all. Preacher didn't care for rumors. But on 18th October 2023, at 2:17 a.m., he discovered some rumors were warnings. And some warnings weren't strong enough. The detour. His task was simple. Deliver $500,000 worth of cold storage immunotherapy vials to a locked drop point outside Stockton. Standard contract, standard night. The cargo was delicate, but predictable. The problem started when he reached the main gate. A reflective vest appeared from the shadows, waving a flashlight. The guard stepped into view. Tall, lean, visor low, vest emblazoned with a name patch. Rodriguez. Preacher rolled down the window halfway. "You working tonight?" Preacher asked. Rodriguez nodded, but didn't speak. "Gates usually open," Preacher added. "Drop points ahead." Rodriguez pointed left, toward a fence service road Preacher had never used. "No lights down there," Preacher said. The guard didn't respond, just motioned again, impatient. Preacher's instincts prickled. A tight feeling below the ribs, the one that whispers this isn't right. Man. But he looked at the schedule, looked at the time. He needed the signature, needed the drop completed before the shipment warmed by even a single degree. He turned left. The road to nowhere. The access lane wound between empty warehouse and stacks of shipping pallets. Weeds grew waist-tall along the chain-link fencing. The cold air had a metallic taste, like breathing old coins. Rodriguez led him on foot, never looking back, boots crunching in slow, rhythmic steps. Preacher followed in low gear, headlights sweeping across cracked asphalt. 50 yards in, the lane dead-end at a locked maintenance yard, barbed wire, corrugated steel, a loading dock choked with trash. Rodriguez stopped. Preacher lowered the passenger window. "This the place?" Rodriguez finally spoke. One flat word. "Yeah." No clipboard. No badge. No receiving station. Preacher opened his door. A mistake. His boot hit the ground, and the entire district went black. Every floodlight. Every warehouse. Every lamp. Gone. Like someone had thrown a giant breaker. Then, 4 red LED lights flickered on in the corners of the yard. Steady. Unblinking. Like eyes. Preacher froze. What the hell? That's when he heard footsteps. 6 sets. Boots. Fast. The circle. Flashlights burst to life, blinding him. 6 beams all pointed at his face. He shielded his eyes as his pulse hammered in his ears. The lights moved in, forming a half circle around him. 6 figures, each wearing dark hoodies and Guy Fawkes masks. The pale smirk of the anonymous face glowing under the harsh lids. 2 held compact pistols. 4 held industrial-grade flashlights like weapons. None spoke. One gestured downward. "On your knees." Preacher raised both hands slowly. "Listen," he said, steadying his breathing. "Cargo is medical. Worth something, sure, But this is federal property. Don't do anything stupid. The masked figure didn't move. Gun lifted. Another hand gesture. Kneel. No, preacher said firmly. You want the freight? You take it. I'm walking away. The masked man cocked the pistol. Preacher decided. Enough. He twisted, sprinting back toward the truck. Bang! A shot cracked the night sky. Not at him, over his head. Warning shot. He didn't stop running. Another shot fired. Another, echoing between the empty buildings. Preacher dove into the cab, slammed the door, and locked it. Flashlights swarmed his mirrors. Shadows sprinted around the trailer. Heart pounding, he grabbed the center of the steering wheel and did the only thing he could think of. He leaned on the horn. Long, louder, unbroken. The horn roared for 90 straight seconds, vibrating through the steel frame, echoing across the industrial district like a ship sounding distress at sea. The masked men panicked. The guns lowered. 3 turned and bolted without a word. Rodriguez, the imposter guard, looked around, suddenly frantic. He waved for the others to scatter. Preacher kept the horn pressed. Finally, distant sirens rose, faint at first, then building, closing. The 6 figures vanished into alleys, scrabbling over fences, slipping between buildings like cockroaches. Rodriguez sprinted into the dark and disappeared. Preacher's breath shook as he reached for the ignition. But he wasn't out yet. The aftermath. Stockton PD arrived first. Then county deputies. Then CHP. 2 cruisers blocked the entrance. Officers swept the area with tactical precision, combing the fencing, the abandoned buildings, the drainage culverts. Nothing. Not a single footprint. Not a piece of clothing. Not a shell casing. Though everyone heard the gunshots. It was as if 6 armed men had evaporated. The detectives reviewed the footage from the adjacent warehouse's security camera. Your horn saved your life, one officer said. Camera feed caught the whole thing. You're lucky. Preacher nodded but watched their faces as they replayed the footage. Something bothered them. Badly. The footage. The video was grainy, green-tinted night vision. But clear enough. Preacher exiting the truck. The sudden blackout. The red LED lights. The swarm of masked men. But when he pressed the horn, the footage flickered. For 1 frame, maybe 2. The 6 figures weren't men at all. Just 6 long shadows, stretching from nothing, cast by no visible source. Then the figures snapped back into view as masked men, running. A glitch maybe. A compression artifact. But the detective rewound it 4 times. The shadow forms always matched the exact positions of the attackers. Only distorted, elongated, wrong. Preacher rubbed his face. Is that real? We don't know. The detective admitted quietly. Could be interference. Could be deliberate. Could be someone messing with the camera feed. Preacher nodded. But he didn't believe that. Those weren't human movements. Those shadows didn't bend right. Didn't run right. Didn't look right. They looked predatory. The burned trailers. A month passed. Enough time for Preacher's nerves to settle. Enough time for police to find nothing. No suspects. No Rodriguez. No trace of the masked men. But on 22nd November, he received a call from a CHP investigator. We found something. You might want to hear this. Preacher met them at the same Stockton industrial zone. The investigator pointed toward a taped-off area behind the maintenance yard. 2 wrecked trailers lay in a blackened field of ash and debris. Frame melted. Cargo doors warped backward like peeled skin. These trailers were stolen months ago. The investigator explained. Cold chain pharmaceuticals. Same type U-Haul. Preacher's throat tightened. What happened to the drivers? The investigator's face hardened. We found the remains. 3 human shapes lay marked beneath yellow tarps. Burned. Wars. The investigator said. Bound. Tortured. The fire was to destroy evidence. Preacher's jaw clenched. He stared at the ground. They used the yard. He whispered. This exact yard. Correct. They brought me here to make you the fourth. Silence pressed between them, thick as smoke. The investigator added quietly. And that's not all. He handed Preacher a small, bagged item. A keycard. Reflective vest scrap. Name patch. Rodridge. Carbon scorched, half melted. Recovered from the ashes. Preacher stared. You think he died here? No. The investigator said. We think he was never a guard at all. That they planted this. To look official. To lure you. Preacher looked at the burnt keycard again, imagining the silent man with the lowered visor. They're organized, he said. Professional. Maybe ex-military. The investigator didn't disagree. They struck twice already. Successfully both times. You were the outlier. Why? Preacher asked. Why let me go? They didn't, the investigator said. They were interrupted. Preacher nodded slowly. The horn, the only weapon he had. And even that barely saved him. The return. 3 days later, Preacher was parked at a Fresno truck stop, trying to sleep off the nightmare. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. Morales, he said. A whisper filled the line. Not static. Not breathing. A whisper. You should have kneeled. Preacher jerked upright. Who is this? Silence. Then another whisper, layered. One voice. Then two, then six, overlapping like multiple recordings played at once. Next time, we won't miss. The call ended. Preacher stared at the phone, heart thundering. He stepped out of his sleeper and scanned the truck stop. Perfectly normal. Truckers fueling. Parents wrangling kids. Dogs being walked. Diesels humming. Then, his eye caught something across the lot. A man in a reflective vest. Hat low. Name patch. Rodridge. Standing perfectly still between two trailers. Watching him. Preacher blinked. And the figure was gone. No footsteps. No retreating silhouette. Nothing. Only the faint, lingering glow of a red lead from a nearby building, flickering softly. Like an eye closing. The realization. Preacher didn't sleep the rest of the night. Because he understood something now. Something the investigators hadn't said. This wasn't just robbery. Not just hijacking. Not even murder. This was ritual. Coordinated. Repeatable. Multi-man teams. Disguises. Blackouts. Mock security. Dead zones where cameras glitch. Traps disguised as drop points. Ghost gates. Once you crossed one, you weren't meant to leave. He thought of the burning trailers. The bound drivers. The masked men appearing from darkness. The shadows flickering between glitched frames. The whispering voice calling his phone. He thought of Rodridge, real or not, leading him silently into the dead end. And worst of all, he thought of how close they'd come. How close he'd come to never being found. One last glimpse. 2 nights later, Preacher took a different route home. Avoided Stockton entirely. Avoided industrial yards. Stayed on crowded freeways. Safe. Crowded. Well lit. He parked at a motel in Merced, exhausted. Before stepping out of the cab, he checked his mirrors. Nothing. He checked the rear camera. Nothing. He looked out the passenger window. Just a quiet parking lot. Then, the power in the motel flickered. For 1 second only. The entire block went dark. So brief it almost didn't register. But in that 1 second, a red LED glow flickered in the bushes across from his truck. 4 little lights. 4 corners. Staring straight at him. The power returned. The LEDs vanished. Preacher's pulse hammered as the realization slammed into him. They weren't done. They weren't finished. They had marked him. And Ghost Gate never missed twice. Story 4. Dead Drop. The fake appointment in Pula. Marcus, Ghost, Jackson had a sixth sense for danger. 41, lean, wiry, sharp-eyed. He'd driven up and down the East Coast for nearly 20 years without a single wreck, a single citation, or a single late delivery. His dispatcher once joked that Marcus didn't just navigate highways, he haunted them. Ghost. The nickname stuck. But ever since late 2024, that sixth sense hadn't been enough. 1. The message that shouldn't exist. It was 9:42 p.m. when the call came through his Bluetooth headset. A familiar voice, warm and smoky, a voice he'd known for 5 years. Ghost, change of plans, said Kelly, his dispatcher. We need you to do a dead drop at Pooler before heading to Savannah. Marcus frowned. That didn't line up with anything on today's manifest. That new? He asked. Yeah. Internal update. Check your tablet for the address. The line cut. Just like that, clean termination. No goodbye. Marcus blinked. Kelly never hung up first. Then the tablet in his dash chirped. New routing update received. He opened it. A warehouse on a frontage road outside Pooler. The message carried his company's internal routing signature. Verified, time-stamped, matching their code library. It shouldn't have been suspicious. But every hair on his arms lifted at once. Something was wrong, not because of the message, but because Kelly had been off shift for 2 days. 2. The road into nowhere. The frontage road was a straight shot from I-95 lit by dull orange highway lamps that flickered in lazy, dying intervals. Georgia nights were heavy with humidity even in November, air thick enough to chew. Marcus downshifted, eyes narrowing on the GPS arrow. The warehouse appeared on the right. Long abandoned, faded for lease sign flapping weakly in the swamp wind. Part of one paneled wall sagged inward where a storm had torn the siding years ago. No cars, no activity, just a dead building and dead air. He should have turned around. His instinct screamed it. But the routing file had been perfect. Too perfect. The kind of perfect that only someone inside the company could produce. Someone who had access. He eased the freight liner closer. That was when the massive sliding door of the warehouse opened on its own, screeching on rusted tracks. White light flooded outward, blinding, cold, industrial. The kind of light used in medical labs or interrogation rooms. Marcus' pulse began to hammer. Hell no. 3. The men in Hajmat suits. At first he thought the figures were mannequins. 4 of them stood in a row, each wearing full-body Hazmat suits, white, stiff, hooded, with opaque face shields. No logos, no markings, no sound. Each held an AR-15 pointed at the floor. But they weren't mannequins. They were breathing. He could see the slow rise and fall of their chests beneath the suits. Then one of them raised a small white placard. Black lettering. Printed. Clean. Shut down engine or die. Marcus felt cold rush down his spine, colder than any winter storm. No voice. No gesture. No negotiation. Just that silent message. He shifted into reverse. And the man on the far right tilted his head, slowly, like an insect evaluating prey. Marcus whispered to himself. Not tonight. He slammed the accelerator. 4 breakout. The truck launched backward. He twisted the wheel hard, the trailer skidding across gravel with a deafening metallic shriek. The Hazmat men didn't shoot. Not yet. The warehouse lights flickered violently through the mirrors as the freight liner tore away from the bay. Marcus felt the truck fishtail, tires spitting mud and sand. Then, brat-tat-tat. Gunfire erupted. Bullets shredded the rear window, exploding glass into a glittering storm. Rounds hammered the trailer, ricocheting off steel. A bullet grazed the back of Marcus' headrest, punching fabric. Another cracked the dashboard screen. He floored it. Come on, baby. Go. The truck blasted through the chain-link gate at the road entrance, metal snapping like brittle bones. He didn't look back. 5. The black pickup. 3 seconds later, headlights flared behind him. A black pickup truck, no plates, howling down the road like a starving wolf. Its engine roared louder than his freight liner. The gap closed fast. Marcus held the wheel so hard his fingers cramped. They falsified the dispatch. Using Kelly's voice. AI clone. It made too much sense. His company recorded every call for training. They had hours of clean audio. Anyone could synthesize a perfect voice. And someone had. The pickup rammed the back of the trailer. Wham! The impact nearly threw Marcus into the steering column. He kept both palms locked to the wheel, knuckles white. Wham! Again. Harder. The truck's rear sensor alarm screamed, flashing proximity warnings. 20 damn years, Marcus growled. And this is the thanks I get. Some psycho with a soundboard. He downshifted. The Freightliner lurched forward just as another burst of gunfire peppered the air behind him. Bullets punched through 2 tires. The rig swayed violently, struggling to keep traction. The pickup surged alongside. Dark-tinted windows, impossible to see inside. A muzzle flashed from the passenger side. Crack, crack, crack. A bullet smashed the side mirror. Another clipped the hood. Marcus ducked instinctively and swerved, forcing the pickup onto the grass shoulder. It bounced, rocked, but kept pursuit. This wasn't random. This wasn't robbery. This was assassination. 6. The chase, 27 miles of hell. Marcus knew these frontage roads. He'd driven them for years. And he knew there were only 2 ways to Savannah from here. The interstate and the local road. The interstate meant witnesses. Witnesses meant survival. He gunned the Freightliner, the damaged tire screaming in protest. The pickup returned to the asphalt, gaining on him again. The gunfire resumed. Bullets whistled past the windshield. Not dying in Pula, Marcus hissed, slamming the wheel. He cut sharply into an exit ramp. The pickup followed without hesitation. The ramp fed into a wide 4-lane highway. Open, exposed, dangerous. For 27 miles, the black pickup stuck to him like it was welded to his trailer. Every turn he made, every acceleration, every attempt to throw it off, it matched perfectly. And each time he slowed, even a little, gunfire erupted. The chase wasn't desperate. It was methodical, clean, professional. Someone wanted Ghost gone and was willing to blast half of Georgia to get it done. 7. The dot way station. Blue lights flashed far ahead. A way station. Open tonight. And, holy hell, there were SWAT trucks in the lot. Lights turned off but unmistakable. Marcus didn't think. He aimed straight for them. The pickup must have seen it too. It swerved violently, trying to flank him and force him off the road. But the Freightliner still outweighed it by a good 20 tons. Marcus jerked the wheel, slamming the side of his trailer into the pickup. Boom! SCRECH. Metal tore against metal. The pickup spun out, skidding sideways in a storm of sparks. It crashed into a drainage ditch, smashing its front end into a concrete culvert. Marcus didn't stop. He barreled straight into the lot, tires flapping, windshield half gone. He smashed the brake pedal, bringing the truck to a screeching halt right in front of 3 armored officers. Armed SWAT agents instantly surrounded his cab, shouting commands. Marcus raised both shaking hands. Don't shoot. I'm the victim. They're after me, black pickup. But when the officers rushed toward the road, the pickup was empty. Doors open. No footprints in the dirt. No blood. No bodies. No sign of escape. Just like the others in this series of attacks. 8. The face in the camera. As officers secured the area, a dot tech approached Marcus' cab. Your dashcam's still running, he said. We need the footage. Marcus nodded, still trembling. They extracted the SD card, loaded it into a laptop inside the SWAT van. The tech froze. Sir, you need to see this. He turned the screen. There it was, crystal clear. During the chase, during one moment when Marcus had swerved and the pickup had pulled close, one attacker's face had been captured in perfect detail. Not masked, not blurred, not distorted. A man in his late 30s. Shaved head, Cold eyes. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. He knew him. It was Ricky Solis, a former employee at Marcus' company, fired 8 months ago for stealing electronics from a load. Arrested, charged, then quietly bailed out by someone no one could identify. And now Ricky had come back. With better equipment, better planning, and an army. Marcus swallowed. Jesus Christ. That's him. The SWAT captain leaned closer. You're saying this man worked for your company? Yeah, Marcus whispered. And he was pissed when he got fired. The captain exhaled. He's not pissed anymore. This is something bigger. He clicked frame by frame. Zooming, enhancing. Behind Ricky in the pickup's cabin, someone else sat in the back seat. A silhouette, broad shoulders, a dark hood, face obscured deliberately. Someone watching, supervising, someone higher. 9. Aftermath. The warehouse was raided 2 hours later. Inside they found boot prints, casings, tire tracks, chemical residue, a portable signal repeater the attackers used to spoof company credentials, and evidence that the voice call to Marcus had been generated using advanced AI, meticulously trained, flawlessly executed. But not one attacker remained. No bodies, no vehicles, no fingerprints, nothing identifiable except the one face on Marcus' dashcam. And even that felt intentional, like they wanted to send a message. 10 ghost speaks. 2 days later, Marcus sat in a diner outside Savannah, hands wrapped around a lukewarm mug of coffee. He hadn't slept. Not really. A local reporter sat across from him, recorder on the table. You're the 4th driver in the past few years to be targeted like this, she said. Do you think it's connected? Marcus stared into his coffee. Then, I think someone's hunting us, he said quietly. Not robbing, not hijacking, hunting. She leaned forward. Why you? Why truckers? Marcus looked up, and the expression in his eyes, once sharp, once full of confidence, was something darker now, something terrified. We carry medicine, electronics, food. The whole country depends on long-haul drivers. You take out supply lines. He shook his head. You